Welcome to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, brought to you by PILMA. This podcast helps lead lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Here is your legal marketing expert and host, Ken Hardison.
Hello everyone, this is Ken Hardison and welcome to another episode of Grow Your Law Firm. And today we have Kaitlin Nares from, Denver.
Yes, sir.
With Hagen Nares Law Firm. And Kaitlin, thank you for being on our podcast today.
Well, I appreciate you having me, Ken.
Yeah. And so this is a little different. We've been talking about AI and offshore workers, and we've been talking about culture in some of our podcasts. We just had our PILMA event in May, and we had people talking about that, and also about how they're leveraging AI and leveraging offshore workers and remote workers and hybrid also to build a law firm. And like I said at the summit, and I say it again, COVID changed everything. It made us do what we probably should have been doing 10 years ago. But it has changed the landscape. And Kaitlin, I think you're part of that. You have evolved out of that changing landscape, and that's why I wanted you on our show today. I want you to just tell me your story, tell me about your law firm and your partner, and just tell me your whole story, where you got to where you are now, and then we'll start talking about other things. But I just kind of want to hear your story first.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of was exactly what led us to starting the law firm. So we are part of what I like to call the Great Resignation, which is when COVID happened, people started to realize, wow, how inefficient was my business before, and how efficient is it now that we're all remote, we're all having to leverage technology. And so that's really what pivoted me and my partner, who worked at a large law firm with me, to starting our own business. And our goal was to start a business like a tech startup and not like a traditional brick and mortar law firm. And so when we started it, we had it in mind that we were going to use AI, automation, vendors, contractors to create the most efficient law firm possible. The more we grow, the more people we can help. And that has been the whole philosophy, that rapid growth would allow us to help more people. And so we've only been around for 1 year, but in that 1 year, we've grown 1,000%. We have really made a mark, not only in Colorado, but starting to be national based on our specialization. And we were able to do this tremendous growth that matches startup growth levels, not traditional law firms that tend to grow only 5% per year. We've been able to do this based on leveraging all that AI, based on leveraging everything that we all learned from during COVID.
Yeah. And so you said a specialty. What is your specialty then? Tell us what you do.
Yeah, so we specialize in truck wreck and brain injury cases. And we decided to specialize right out of the gate because we realized if we are specializing, people are going to find us. If we don't specialize, we're not talking to anybody. We're not different than anybody else. We also believe that you truly can't specialize in everything. It takes hundreds, if not thousands of hours of research, of repetitive work, repetitive litigating of cases to really master something. And so that's where we said what we do best and what we want to do best is truck wreck and brain injury cases. And that's solely what we're going to do so that we can be the best we can be in those fields. Yeah. And so that's really how the specialization worked. And that also created for how we had rapid growth, because with two specialties, we were able to create policies and procedures that really make us very efficient.
Yeah. So there's a lot of what you said was a mouthful, and I want our listeners and viewers to realize there's a lot of lessons to be learned out of this last 3 minutes. Number one is always a bad number. Don't ever just do one thing. Always at least have two. Don't ever have just one vendor. Don't ever have just one person, because then you become dependent and you can really get hurt if that one thing goes south. Just remember, when the car wrecks, COVID hit, there wasn't nobody driving. The guys that were just doing car wrecks, they were having a hard time. They really were. And they started recovering from it. The second thing is by specializing, you have differentiated yourself against all the other lawyers in your area. There are others that do this, but in your market, in the Denver market, I know you go all over the states, but you're based out of Denver, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
You've got a differentiator, because the question, and I preach this all the time to our PILMA members, there's two questions you got to answer in your marketing. Do I need a lawyer? And if I do need a lawyer, why should I choose you over everybody else? Well, you've answered that. You've answered that, because that's all we do. You know, we specialize in it, so that means that we do it. And PILMA, we commissioned a report, a study of 400 consumers that had hired PI lawyers. And one of the main things they looked at was that people were either certified or they were specialists. They knew what they were doing. That was a big. Another one was be approachable. And I think you girls have got that down, and trustworthy. But as far as the qualifications, they wanted the person to be, they liked it if they were a specialist. So you've hit on something, you've hit on a lot, 3 or 4 things right there, Kaitlin, that are very, very important. I don't even know if you know how important they were. I think you do. But that's something that our listeners and our viewers can take away from this is you girls started this thing out with the right idea. What I'm saying is you got your differentiator, and there's another one. There's riches and niches. What I'm saying is if you try to be everything to everybody, you're nothing. So you pick, but you don't pick 10, you pick 2 or 3 and you go with it. And you pick 2, I think, highly lucrative ones that need servicing, and so because we know brain injuries are always, they're high dollar cases, and we know that trucking cases usually got some insurance involved in it. But 99% of the time there's insurance to be found, and they're usually more serious cases. So I applaud you on that. I really do. So tell me, so your partner, you told me before we started, she is in Michigan?
Correct.
And you are in Denver?
Correct. Yes.
And where is your staff at?
So our staff is all over the country. And so what we were chatting about was basically kind of what you were talking about in the introduction, is kind of how COVID changed everything. So when this happened, based on COVID and relocations, me and my partner happened to be in different states. So we started this law firm virtually in different states. And that allowed us to build a culture between the two of us from day one that supported a virtual office. By doing that, it was so easy to implement staff members from other states. And that's really important, because by having staff members in other states, I get the pick of the country in picking the best A players possible to do a particular role. Traditional brick and mortar, you're only looking at those people that can drive to your office. So we're talking at most probably about a 45-minute drive to you. And that's also counting in traffic. Are you in a large city like LA, New York, Austin, Dallas, any of these major cities, you're nearing that 45 minutes. So that's just a couple miles. And so by doing this from the get-go, we were able to pick the best 8 players from all over the state. And so, or all over the country. And that has been fantastic. We have A player in South Carolina, A player in Florida, A player in Texas right now. So we're all over. And because we do national work, because truck wreck cases are national, really it's, it wasn't needed that we had to be central in Colorado and doing everything in Colorado.
Yeah. It's funny. I was just talking to the expert on the alternative law firms on a podcast I was recording before this one. And her prediction was that with all this money coming in, that the lawyers that are going to make it are the ones that actually know how to go and try cases and get big verdicts. So I'm guessing that you ladies went into this, you have tried cases and got some decent verdicts, or don't you wouldn't be doing this, I would think.
Yeah, our goal for this is that we won't take on a case unless we are willing to litigate. And so from intake, we are trial ready and preparing this case for litigation. We don't have a pre-litigation department. Every case we take on is going to litigation. And I think that's going to set us up apart from other firms that don't do litigation, that they'll sub out and they'll contract out. that creates real big problems potentially. Naturally, you may want to settle the case to keep that, and that's not good for the client. That's not good for the case. Or you're not prepared if you are going to litigate it, and it's just your one-off trucking case or your one-off TBI case. You're not prepared for that. And so I come from the realm of trial work. I worked on large civil rights cases in the Southern District of New York, Manhattan. I was one of the litigators of the Central Park 5 case. And so litigation's what I did before. We're not scared to do this. And having a firm that knows that we're going to do this from day one, that's really important. It sets you up for success. And you're building the case based on what you need for trial, not what you need for a demand pre-lit. And that's a real difference. And I think what a lot of the greatest trial attorneys are having that mindset, and that's how they get those results.
Yeah, I think the most, when I was practicing, we had a trucking case or a brain injury case, a case with high damages. We just we took it straight over to litigation because we knew we were going to never get the money that it deserved until we got it in litigation, because they got to do their discovery, right? Mm-hmm. So we usually file a lawsuit early because we just knew that they would never pay the money until they got a chance to depose the doctors and the client, and to pay the money that we were going to want. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like you said, you could flip one quick. One of my old mentors said, "You know how to get $1 million verdict?" I said, "No." He said, "Screw up a $3 million case." So I've always kind of took that to heart, and I think I used to have a thing in my office. This is what it says: he who fails to prepare prepares to fail. Mm-hmm. And I always felt like preparation was the key. I never thought I was the smartest lawyer, but you couldn't out prepare me when I was going to court. You might be smarter than I am or whatever, but as far as knowing the case, I know it as good as anybody in the courtroom, and I think that's important. Yeah. I really do.
And I think specifically with traumatic brain injury cases, not a lot of law firms are specializing specifically in that, but it's still uncharted territory a lot in evaluation. And so they're high value cases, but adjusters are putting really low values on them. They're saying, oh, it's just a concussion. Oh, it wasn't a big deal, stuff like that. And it takes a lot of effort into these cases. It takes a lot of effort from day one of talking to the client at intake about what are the symptoms that they're having, and repeatedly asking them about that throughout the course of the case. And the case may go in a totally different realm. Most likely we're the first ones that are really talking to them about their traumatic brain injury because they were, sent on their way at the ER, right? They didn't have internal bleeding. They didn't have a skull fracture, therefore discharge, not a big deal. ER and EMS just discounted it. But in reality, they did have a substantial TBI that was uncovered later on. And so it's just really caring about the case from day one and setting it up for trial. What do I need for trial? And how are we going to go from there?
So how do you deal with building a good culture in the firm since you're all spread out?
Yeah.
What do you do? What kind of things do you do to try to make sure everybody kind of feels like a part of a team?
It's the mentality of taking away what most law firms do, most mega law firms do that probably have high turnover, and just like turning it on its head, that it's caring about the person in their financial, professional, and personal goals. And every one of my contractors will tell you that at every all hands meeting we have on Monday, I'm checking in on their personal, professional, and financial goals. That we care about that, because the more they're succeeding in their personal life, the more they're going to succeed at work. And that's guaranteed every time. I have yet to have that experience in previous jobs, that they cared about my professional goals or financial goals truly. And so that's a major emphasis at our firm. And anything we could do to help or assist them, goes all the way. The number one referrals for you are prior clients. And number two is prior employees that had good experiences. And so really building up, even if it's a part-time contractor, we treat them all the same way. And, we've had staff members that have left. The role didn't fit them, but they've sung our praises on the onboarding process and the culture fit. And so that could be a potential great referral source, even if that position didn't fit. And so we put a real emphasis on that.
I was reading a book the other day, and the author was saying exactly what you said. In fact, I started doing it with PILMA people that work here at PILMA. Is I want to know what's your personal, where do you want to be 5 years, personally and professionally? What can I do to help you get there? What kind of school can I pay for? What can I do? And we have a meeting every month, and we do some kind of teaching. Some kind. It might be they read a book and we go over it about. I think we did one book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. Mm-hmm. Different things, the Rockefeller habits. But it goes back to another one of my. You hadn't followed me because you're too young, but I got a lot of sayisms, and one of them is they don't care until they know how much you care. Mm-hmm. And I really believe that. So you need to keep with this, because if people do not quit because of money. There are 2 main reasons they quit is because they don't feel appreciated, or they got an asshole for a boss, immediate supervisor. If they feel like there's something, part of something bigger, they feel valued, they feel appreciated, and you let them know that, and that you really care about their, like you said, their personal and professional, they're not going to leave you over $2 or $3 an hour. I can tell you that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I felt that way too at my old firm. It wasn't about money. It was about flexibility. I've had that in other positions that I have. And I think most people will find that way. And that is our major goal and emphasis of our law firm, is to tell, to tell moms, to tell working parents that you can still be a trial attorney. If our firm can give you the flexibility and the support needed to thrive in your personal life, you're going to bring all those amazing things that you have, that the benefits. A working mom, the ability, or working dad, the ability to schedule and organize and manage chaos in your house. You're bringing that organizational skill to the cases. And so we see all the benefits of having a well-rounded life at our firm. And so our whole goal is to allow parents to be back into the courtroom and be trial attorneys. And we're doing everything we can to promote that and facilitate that in our firm.
So you and your partner both are moms?
We are. And so I have a 23-year-old, a 23-month-old, and a 8-month-old.
I was going to say, there's no way you eat much over 23 yourself.
Yeah, so my boys are just 14 months apart. And then my partner has 2 twin girls that are 4 years old. And so we have been in the grind ourselves, and we basically built this firm to allow us the flexibility to, still raise our kids. My 8-month-old has been home with me throughout the process of starting this law firm with success. And that vulnerability, that talking about our personal life with people that are interviewing with us, it has allowed us to really get these A players that normally would be too scared to apply for jobs because they don't think that the home life that they have would be supported by their work. And we've made it a way that it fits. And so we've gotten a lot of A players that normally would think that they're out of the market. So
then I want to flip it over now. So how do you hold them accountable to it? Because that's the big deal.
Yeah, right. I think, you probably had them too, is this key performance indicators are everything. And so people, other law firms may hover over you every second, checking in, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? But they're not really looking holistically over, like, did we hit our main milestones to get this case moving towards trial? Did we, and we have key ones, the number of demands that were sent, the number of cases filed, the number of depositions that are scheduled, the number of mediations, number of hearings and trials set. It's moving those cases along. And if they hit those milestones, we're in a great position. So I think the micromanaging of the day-to-day is not as important as the holistic, how did we do in the month and how have we moved the cases along? So everyone is tracked with KPIs, hit their goals. And not only are we tracking KPIs professionally, I'm holding them accountable each month as they set KPIs for their personal life. As simple as I had a KPI that I was going to walk 30 minutes a day. I had to, let my whole team know that if I succeeded or not on my monthly KPI. It all is just making you a better person, but KPIs are everything. Great way to hit those milestones, move those cases along to trial.
Do y'all do a lot of, I guess you do a lot with Zoom, I would think. Do y'all have like daily huddles or anything like that, or?
Yeah, so we do an all hands every Monday, and that is where we're all kind of coming in and talking about our KPIs, the professional, personal ones. And then I'll have some little training tidbit, and then a daily huddle. And it could be very short, but you pick those 5 things that got to be done, no matter what. And so we pick those 5 items that need to be done in the firm that day to move us along to hit our KPI goals. And that's what we set on a daily. So the daily is those 5 things, and the monthly is reaching those KPIs at the end. And I think that's, we do truck wreck and brain injury cases, but that model that we're creating can be replicated in any type of firm.
Absolutely. Yeah. We do daily huddles at PLLMA. Do a lot of meetings, but meetings can be great or meetings can be terrible, depending on how you do them. But that's another podcast.
Yeah.
I could talk an hour about meetings.
Yeah, the number of meetings, that was the main thing of how efficient I thought meetings were. I even have a mug that says this could have been an email. And so what we try to keep is those 2 things are really what are important, right? Those top 5 each day and the KPIs at the end of the month. And so those are really our main meetings. And so if you want to have any other meeting at our firm, you got to request it. You put it on the calendar. It's not this notion of like constant meetings all throughout the day. And so that is something I found that was really inefficient. And again, creates that culture of every time there's a meeting, and you could attest to the same, every time there's a meeting, there's a break in momentum of what you were doing before. And it takes about 27 minutes to like get yourself back after distractions. And so it halts deep work. It halts time blocking on the calendar. Lots of problems with, I think, constant meetings because everybody at our firm does time blocking and moments of deep work. And the less meetings you have, the more ability that you can free up a calendar for those things.
Absolutely. Okay. So is there anything I haven't asked you I should have?
No, I really appreciate you, Ken. I'd love chatting with anybody about how to run these businesses. That's what I do as the CEO of the firm. Love it. Your experience that you've had, I think. What I love that you said is we should have done this 10 years before COVID. And the second I started this firm, I thought, I wish I started this firm 10 years ago, the way that we did, because if anybody told me 10 years ago, you could start a law firm very efficiently and very cheaply. We started a law firm with a laptop, a cell phone, and malpractice insurance, very in slowly, and built it up. And so I think we're going to see the next generation of lawyers doing really great things and getting back in the courtroom this way. Yeah.
So if anybody wants to contact you, how can they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. We ask anybody to come visit our website. It's www.hntriallaw.com. And it is very robust in everything you can think of relating to truck wreck cases, brain injury cases, all the resources in the world, whether you're someone that wants to learn about it for a family member or, spread some information to share, or alternatively, if you want to co-counsel with us, we also have resources just letting you know how you could do these cases step by step, all the resources you need to really start these cases and work them up to success. So everything is on the website, also contact information to reach us.
All right. Well, listen, thank you so much. And I'll check in on you. I want to get back with you in about a year, see how you're doing.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you, Ken.
All right. You take care. Until next time, this is Ken Hardison, dedicated to your success.
You have been listening to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, the podcast that leads lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Go to growyourlawfirm.com to find more ways to market and manage your law firm. Please leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts.